are times in your life when you've think you've reached the bottom, but there are also times when you feel you've reached the top. And one of the times for me when I felt the latter was in a garage, a dealership in New York City in August 1984, and I'd stopped at the Zumbach Saab to pick up my brand new white Ford Turbo. And here she is. Mine had a spoiler on the back, a black spoiler, you know, for that extra bit of smartness and road holding, I guess. But I think a bit of, you know, je ne sais quoi. And it was funny how I got that Saab, because I never thought of buying a Swedish car. I'd driven a Volvo and I thought it was rather sort of plodding. Never driven a Saab at all. Certainly not a Saab Turbo 900. But when I was appointed to this fancy college in Massachusetts, University of Massachusetts, I rang my friends in New York and told them. They were very pleased. And I said, well, he said, you must get a set of buoy wheels. One of my friends he had been at Yale, but he ended up as a yellow cab driver in New York City, painter he was, and still is. And he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'll bring over my Mercedes 280 SL. This is before I found out I had to fit all the bits and pieces on it and things. And he says, oh, for God's sake, don't take that to that school. I said, why not? He said, you're a professor. You've been hired from England to teach at a fancy school, fancy university. You can't show up in that. I said, why not? He said, well, it's just too, it's too sort of, plutocratic. You cannot do that. You've got to find the right car. And I said, what is the right car? He said, there's only one car for a European to show up there. He said, and that's a Saab Turbo 900. And I said, why is that? He said, because it's cool and it's fast and it's kind of European and it's kind of intelligent. I said, well, I've heard about it. I said, they're driven by architects, aren't they? And in England, Saab stands for Swedish architect active Bonker. He said, active what? I said, active Bonker. What's a Bonker? Oh, let me guess. Well, I took that car to the house. I'm getting mixed up because they were both very fancy places. And in Zumbach, New York City, I drove out of that garage and took the road up to the college, up the Taconic Parkway, Taconic State Parkway, which runs above the Hudson River over the mountains. And it's very narrow and it's very twisty. And but it's interesting. It was a completely different concept. It was built in the 1920s for people who the new car-owning masses who now had Model T Fords, and the idea of going for a walk in the park had been replaced by the idea of going for a drive in the park. So it was a 120-mile park, and the idea was you got in your Model T Ford and you drove up there, right up into near the Appalachians, and then you drove all the way back again. Maybe have a picnic at the top. Up near Albany, and then you drove back again. A beautiful landscape it was, absolutely stunning landscape, particularly in the fall. You drove all the way there and all the way back. But the problem was that the road was very sort of curvy. Although it looked like to us, it would look like a motorway. You had dual carriageway out of the way. Petrol stations were actually in the middle of the dual carriageway, strangely enough. And you drove up there, and they'd say things, watch out for deer. You could hit a deer. They had to be very careful about that. But what the thing about the road was, it also had very sort of steep inclines, and steep verticals, and without any change. And usually steep, often with a curve at the bottom, or the other way around. so you couldn't drive terribly fast on it. When I first went up there, I drove that road for interview, and I'd rented a Chevy Nova, I think it was called, a Chevy Chevette, perhaps it was that. It doesn't really matter. At the airport in New York, and I'd driven up there for interview 2 or 3 months before I was appointed, and I was only driving at 50, 55 was supposed to be the limit, and I came down this long steep road, part of the thing, and then there was a suddenly turn at the bottom, and it wasn't cambered correctly. The cambers were the wrong way round. I didn't bother about that because Model T, why bother with that? And I was driving about 50, 55, and I thought the bloody Chevrolet would tip over because it's really frightening. I thought it's not going to make the corner. Anyway, when I picked up the car in Zumbach and drove it over those mountains on that Taconic Parkway, I thought, let me see if this is the part where I nearly tipped up. Let's see what the Saab can do. The Saab Turbo, and well. A goddess on a mountain top, with burning like a silver flame. The summit of beauty is love, and Saab Turbo was her name. She's got it, baby, she's got it. Well, I'm your Venus, I'm your fire at your desire. Well, I'm your Venus, I'm your fire at your desire. I looked at the speedometer. The car was rock solid coming down. I thought, am I going to make it? The speedometer was hovering on 75 miles an hour. No problem at all in the Saab Turbo 900. Went like a dream. And it was a car that was, it's a strange car really, because I thought, I'd had German cars and British cars and French cars and Italian cars, and I thought, if there was a marriage of car family, what would this be? What would a Saab Turbo 900 be? And it was I don't know, I guess it was a meeting of an Italian man and maybe a Swedish woman, or the other way around. But it had that sort of feel of being a sort of melding of the best of Swedish, even German build quality, and that Italian joie de vivre, that Italian, home spirit of life to it. I was once run into the back of it when I picked it up from Kennedy Airport by a truck driver who fell asleep at the wheel. He admitted it. He'd driven all the way from Georgia, a midnight truck drive from Georgia, and he smashed the back in and it was repaired. He's terribly apologetic, but the actual body of the car wasn't affected at all, and it was repaired, and that was fine. And then on another occasion, I drove to Chicago because my gallery representing my work in America was based in Chicago, and I had a show there. And in fact, I made works to go into the back of fit into the back of the Saab. And on the way back, I rather foolishly decided to stop at Detroit. I'd heard about Detroit, how the American car industry was absolutely decimated. And it was terrible what we saw in Detroit, even in 1988, 88. And I left the car parked in Detroit and wandered around the city centre. When I came back, the bonnet was scratched, and it said something like, commie bastard from the east. Well, it was a bit stupid driving a Saab turbo into the middle of Detroit, who was suffering a terrific recession, for which it never really recovered, and providing them with a Saab turbo, and then I don't know, when you look to the number plates on it, it says Zumbach, New York City. I suppose I was asking for it on that one, but anyway, I was really sad to see that car go when I left America, and I had to sell it because it was no good taking a left hooker to England. It wouldn't have been worth anything. It's a fantastic car, but you know, coming back to what I started with about, you know, when you're most successful in your life, I was 40, 41 years old. A few years ago, I decided that I got a Bristol, and I got the old Austin 10, and I thought I need something just to remind me of when I was the most successful part of my life. And what I've remembered was walking out of that time I went to Chicago, walking out of the Chicago University Club on one Sunday morning, because I was staying there, courtesy of the gallery, and I saw a white Saab turbo parked across the road. I looked at it, I thought, that's a beautiful car I've got. In fact, I didn't realise it was as beautiful as that. And then I looked and I thought, hang on, my Saab turbo is there. Why is it? This one's a convertible. I looked at it. I'd never seen a Saab convertible before, they'd just come out. And I thought, that car, it's a silver one. One day I'll have that car. And here it is. And it's in my garage now. The real thing. How sad is that?